Hello everyone, so this is going to be your evaluating expressions study guide answer key. So remember when we are evaluating algebraic expressions, it means we're plugging numbers in for the variables. And when I say variables, I'm talking about the letters that are in the problem. So right here we have 4a. So if you think about the operation happening between 4 and a is going to be multiplication. So in order for me to plug 3 in, I have to use parentheses to show that multiplication is happening here. If not, it just looks like 43. So when I do that, I have 4 parentheses 3. So my answer to this first one is going to be 12. So again, that's really important when we do multiplication. So looking at number 2 is not as important to use parentheses because we do have subtraction here separating the two numbers so that we know the operation. So I can do 2 minus, and again, you can put parentheses, but they're not necessary here. So 2 minus 2. So our final answer here is 0. So taking a look at the next one, we have a plus 9. Again, no multiplication or division or anything like that is happening here, so we don't really need parentheses, but you can put them if you want. So if I plug in 10 for a, I have 10, and then I keep copying the rest of the problem down, plus 9. So our answer here is going to be 19. Looking at number 4, we do have multiplication, which means parentheses is going to be very important. And if you notice, when we have v times v, we're actually repeating that same number twice. So it'll be 3 times 3. And again, that is going to be 9, not 33, because we're using those parentheses to show multiplication. So looking at number 5 here, we have c times c divided by 4, so parentheses are really important here because this multiplication needs to be separated by the parentheses. So 5 is actually going in for both the c's. So the first c is 5. I'm going to need another parenthesis for my next 5, and then I'm copying down the divided by 4. So now here we have to use order of operations because there's more than one operation. So we know with multiplication and division, if they're the only options, we look left to right. So we'll do 5 times 5, which is 25. And then we have divided by 4. And then 25 divided by 4, I did notice that a lot of you were confused with this problem because it was a decimal. However, it is completely possible to get a decimal when you do these. So you could either leave it as 25 over 4, or you can simplify that to 6.25 by dividing. So that will be our answer to number 5. Number 6, I have u plus 4u. So again, because of this 4u here, I know I'm going to need parentheses. So I'll plug in the 6 here, plus 4. But again, I'm not just putting the other 6 here. I have to copy down the parentheses. So this 6 is going in for this u. I'm copying the 4 down, and 6 is going in for the second u. So again, we need to use order of operations when we have more than one operation. So multiplication, division always comes before addition and subtraction. So it'll be 6 plus, and then 4 times 6 will be 24. So we'll get 6 plus 24. So my final answer here is 30. So now these next few problems are a little bit trickier, but we do know how to do them. So for number 7, notice there's already a set of parentheses inside this problem, and I also see here that I'm going to use multiplication because of the 5n and the 7b. So the best way to do this is when you already have parentheses in the problems, turn them into brackets. So instead of writing 2 parentheses, I'm going to put 2 in a bracket because we know brackets can be used as parentheses. And then when I put my negative 5, when I'm plugging in for n here, instead of when I'm plugging in for n, I need my parentheses because this is multiplication. So it'll be 5 parentheses 7 minus 7. And for b, I'm going to put negative 6. And then at the end of this, I'm going to close my bracket. So the reason that we use brackets here is because it kind of less clutters the problem when I have a bracket and parentheses. So I can see here now that I need to do these 2 sets of multiplication before I can do anything else. So I'm going to copy my bracket to bracket. Negative 5 times 7 will be a negative 35. And here is where you have to be very careful. Negative 7 times negative 6 will actually be a positive 42, not a negative because there's 2 negatives there. So then I'm going to continue working inside the bracket. So negative 35 plus 42 will be a positive 7. So then our last thing to do here is a number outside of a bracket or parentheses means to multiply. So my answer here is 14. So that will be my answer to number 7. Okay, so that was a tough one, but again, you can use those brackets, or the other thing is you could just use multiple sets of parentheses. You just have to keep track of what's going to come next. So looking at 8, I'm plugging in for C and Z. So for C, I'm putting a 4 plus 6, and then instead of this Z here, it's going to be a 2. So again, make sure you use order of operations. So I'm going to copy the 4 plus down, and then 6 times 2 will be 12. So 4 plus 12 equals 16. So continuing down, these next few problems, you have to really be careful with the negatives. So make sure that you're putting them in the problem, especially using parentheses. So if I have my 8R here, I'm going to copy down 8. But again, this is parenthesis negative 6. So parentheses are especially important there because you don't want this to look like 8 minus 6. And then plus n would just be plus 7. So 8 times negative 6 will be a negative 48. And then plus 7. So my final answer here will be a negative 41. And then for number 10, we have 4. But since there's an n right next to it, you need to use parentheses. Negative 9 plus 8. Z is going to be negative 2. 4 times negative 9 will be a negative 36. 8 times negative 2 is a negative 16, so I could put minus 16. And then all we're doing is doing negative 36 minus 16, and we get a negative 52. So again, it's very important that you are being aware of the negatives in the problem. And if you have struggle with the negatives and those rules, make sure you are entering them into the calculator. Okay, so then 11 is our last problem where we're plugging in here. So I have 8b plus negative 36 over n. Just a note, I know this looks kind of confusing with the fraction here, but we know fractions actually mean division. So we'll use that a little bit later. So I'll start with my 8. Instead of b will be negative 4 plus negative 36. And underneath it is my n, which is negative 9. So when you go to do order of operations here, again, remember that this fraction does mean to divide. So I'm going to do my multiplication first, then divide, then add. So 8 times negative 4 will be a negative 32. And then negative 32 plus, and then again, this is division here. So when we have division, negative 36 divided by 9 will be a positive 4. So negative 32 plus 4 will be a negative 28. So that will be our answer for number 11. Okay, and then 12 and 13 were like those challenge questions on our challenge sheet the other day. So again, our first thing that we wanted to look at is what it is that our expression is. So again, expressions don't have an equal sign. So this whole thing isn't an expression. The expression is only the first part. So 3m. So 3m minus 5 is our expression. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug all of these numbers in and see which one of these gives our expression 10 when we plug them in. So I'll show you what that looks like. So my first one is m equals negative 1. So I'm going to take the expression 3, but instead of m, I'm going to put parenthesis negative 1, and then I'm going to put minus 5. So when I do that, 3 times negative 1 is a negative 3, minus 5 will be a negative 8. So because we have negative 8 and not 10, this will not be the answer. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 0. So 3 times, instead of m, we're putting 0, minus 5. 3 times 0 is 0, minus 5 is just a negative 5. Again, does not equal 10, so that's not the answer. So here we're doing 3 times m, which is negative 3, minus 5. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, minus 5, and then we have a negative 14. So again, that will not be the answer. So our last one is going to be 3 times 5 minus 5. 3 times 5 is 15, minus 5 will be 10. So notice how this 10 matches the 10 on our equation, so m equals 5 will be the answer to this question. So notice how I showed all of my work, and I figured out which one of these answers would give me 10. So 13 is a little bit different. So what 13 is doing is you give you the s, and they want to know which equation will work. So we're going to plug s into all of our expressions. So I'm going to highlight the actual expressions. So s minus 2 is our first expression, s minus 3, 2s plus 5, and s minus 5 minus 1. So we're going to plug s into all of those and see which ones will give us an answer on the other side of the equation. So s plus 2 is 5 plus 2 equals 7. So if we notice, we get 7 equals 7. So that's actually going to be our answer. However, if we wanted to try all of them, if I do s minus 3, that's 5 minus 3 equals 12. 5 minus 3 is 2 equals 12, and that is not true. So that's why this one is not the answer. If we do 2 times 5 plus 5 equals 23. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 5. So we get 15 equals 23. And again, that is not true, so this is not the answer. Last one, 5 over 5 minus 1 equals 8. 5 over 5 is 1, so 1 minus 1 equals 8. And again, 0 does not equal 8 here, so this is not the answer. So you actually could have stopped when you first got that 7 equals 7, but I just checked the rest of them to show you that those don't work. So again, this is your study guide. So what I would do is on your study guide from Friday is I would go back and I would check your answers. So I would check that you got number 13, 12, 11, and all the ones on this first page to make sure that you got them correct. And if there's any that you didn't get correct, I would go retry them so that you can do well on our quiz tomorrow. And feel free to email me if you have any questions.